Hi everyone, welcome to the Oversharing podcast with me. My name is James Pham. I'm the host. I'm the founder of Opsin. We focus on solving the oversharing problem um, for GenAI with using tools such as Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini, and Clean. I'm very happy and excited to have with me here Mihai Faur. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit, Mihai?
Thanks a lot, James, for asking me to join your podcast. It's really great to be here. My name is Mihai. I'm currently Chief Information Officer at UiPath. I'm in this role for the last 2 years now. But prior to this role, I was Chief Financial Officer at the same company, joining UiPath beginning of 2016 when UiPath was a small company.
Mm,
I was CFO for 4 years when from Romania, because UiPath is a Romanian underdog, recently called underdog. I moved to US and I took over Chief Accounting Officer role. I was in charge of running the IPO readiness roadmap. I did that successfully back in 2021 when UiPath was listed on New York
mm,
Stock Exchange. And after a period of, let's say, doing controlling, I took this opportunity to be Chief Information Officer. I believe that IT is critical to any organization.
mm,
If you think about the transformative role that IT can have in any organization.
mm.
Happy to be on this podcast, James.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that UiPath is definitely at the forefront of technology. Um, you know, before that it was IPA, and now it's Gen AI. I think that you guys are really as a leader and as top leader in this space. So very excited to have you. So with that said, let jump right in, right? Like so, when you think about AI as an enabler, right? Like I think AI has exploded in the past 2 or 3 years, and then everyone talking about like, hey, I want to adopt Gen AI, I want to adopt Gen AI. So could you share a little bit more, on your insight on AI adoptions, where it is the big pictures?
Obviously, everyone knows Gen AI from just mentioning ChatGPT and how you can use that as an individual in a day-to-day, questions or even in software development. I've seen like
Mm,
people using ChatGPT. That's what you call generative AI. But I think Gen AI really laid the groundwork for a greater leap in applied AI. And when we talk about applied AI, obviously the core technology is the open source of Gen AI. But I think we talk about agentic AI, and I think the applied AI is really what the company are looking for because
mm, right.
this will profoundly transform organization. This profoundly transform organizations, the people who work in those organizations, and of course the very nature of the work that they do.
Mm,
And we
right.
can say we cannot say that generative AI has fallen by the wayside.
Yeah.
It's true that many organizations are still struggling to define and scale their Gen AI initiatives. UiPath did a lot of research, and I think they published on their website the impact of Gen AI in different
Mm,
organizations, and it's quite limited. Like the Gen AI, technologies are used in certain cases, usually to document things or even to do some software development, but
mm,
hasn't really got in a way that can be applied efficiently within processes, back office
mm,
process, front office processes, and so on. So I think they're still capturing organization are still capturing gains from both the outside in AI built into the enterprise software and of course the new models, the new
mm,
LLMs,
mm,
which will really be used to allow organizations to take advantage of the data. So
yeah.
the word is agentic AI, and UiPath, is leading in this space.
Right.
We building an agentic AI platform. We believe in the orchestration of the agents being critical. When the orchestration of the agents mean that we put together the agents that we build
Mm,
on, the LLMs, the models that exist there, the automation and the humans themselves.
mm,
And this will enable, I think, these agents to make it to plan, make decisions, and adopt autonomously and on the fly.
mm,
So everything is built on the foundation of Gen AI, James, and large
yeah.
language models. But we give new powers, I think, to these agents to act, to plan,
Mm,
and to through an ensemble of action large language models. We are talking about large actionable models. Yeah, that's
mm,
what we thought. I think this is basically the new setup that I'm seeing as a CIO, and we are trying to walk the talk. We are trying to drink our own champagne or eat our dog food, you want to call it. And of course, we are all benefiting of the Gen AI technologies, everyone.
yeah. Yeah, I think what you said make a lot of sense, right? I think GenAI is really an enabler for the humans, for the employees within the organization. But at the same time, we're still at the early stage when it comes to GenAI. Like you said, there is the impact of GenAI use cases are still limited now. But expectedly, as we adopt more agentic approach, GenAI become more powerful and can execute more. And you mentioned about large action model, it's not just about text, it's about actually go out and act. And it's not just about like text and exchanging things. I think it would make it tremendously more helpful. So with that said, when you think about this concept of a virtual workers, right, it's essentially that what those agents are. um, like how you think about it in terms of how would that evolve over time? How would that change or transform enterprises as things kind of mature more in terms of the Gen AI space, but also in agentic AI capabilities?
So I just want to mention a few facts which I took from UiPath report that was published on agentic AI. It's like
Mm.
Gartner actually named agentic AI as a top 25 technology trend for
Oh
2020
wow.
for 2025, so for this year.
Mm.
And IDC as well noted that even the global expenditures on agentic AI will probably jump from zero back 2 years to maybe 400 million last year. They mentioned
Mm.
that that was the span. I think that's just the beginning of the use of agentic AI, which has as basis, let's call it back, the Gen AI technology.
Yeah.
The estimate is that this category, specific category, will be 10 times fold by 2028. So we're talking about a
Wow.
4 billion. So you can imagine, the number of technologies that will incorporate agentic AI, or will incorporate agents. We know that so we heard that every software company, whether it's Salesforce or Workday, are going to develop their own agentic
Mm.
solution, which kind of particular to their platform, to their apps. They're going to
Yeah.
be automation technologies that are going to build agents
Mm.
agnostic to technology, but linked to processes, to automations and humans and technologies as well.
Mm.
And I think there's going to be like a lot of growth. Applied AI, which we call agentic AI, it's really the thing. And as this will explode, I think companies will build their own AI teams to build their own agents. They can do
Mm.
that. Yeah? Probably it will not be so much proprietary technology to them to build an agent, considering that it's not that difficult to build an agent. What will
Mm.
be important is then, the orchestration of the agent, the security and governance layers. That will
Mm.
be because, with the access to Gen AI, also this opens the door to many vulnerability threats as well
Yeah.
as opportunities. But where you have opportunities and strengths, you also have weaknesses and you also have vulnerabilities. So I
Mm.
think thinking about building agents, it's thinking about how you put your security layer. In
Mm.
the end, what the agents will do, because we know that the humans, the workers, are bombarded with
Mm.
information, and we know that a worker or someone, a person, is probably spending 35% of their time to make sure that they understand the data. It will
Mm.
help on the data. There's a data overload in any
Mm.
company. I think agentic will help, but on the other hand, let's not forget about the risks associated with access to data.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Not
you
sure I
kind of.
answered the question, but I hope I did.
Yeah, no, I think that actually very insightful. I think that you talk about not just the benefits of agentic AI in terms of like helping workers to be more efficient in terms of like 35% of them have overload of data and information. Now they can with Gen AI, they could easily summarize document, ask question about things that relevant to their job and not going to like hundreds of pages. So I think that definitely kind of help. Um, and in terms of like what you see in terms of adoption across various industry, like where you see most adoption coming from and what kind of use cases that they are kind of looking into?
Yeah, I think agentic automation is, I would call it, put it in the bracket, equal opportunity. And it's applicable across different industries and activities. And I think
Mm,
just give some examples that I heard about it. I will take, for example, the customer service
mm,
as a division in probably any organizations.
mm,
Actually, agents can boost productivity. In
mm,
calls, for example, yeah. And I know McKinsey reports that the agents will help a large call center service to solve 40% of the issues each hour. So they are
mm,
here to actually take what the humans will do when you have a lack in the human resource. I think agents can fulfill that. We have to think about these virtual workers as really
mm,
as virtual humans that are trained for a specific context. Yeah, if
mm,
you have an operating procedure that a person is coming and he's learning what his job will be and he's looking at standard operating procedures and policy.
mm,
The same is with the agent. You teach the agent to look at certain context.
mm.
And this context is not as automation in the past, which is static, but could be dynamic. So you can alter the
Yeah.
context. The agent will be able to understand it as a human will be able to understand it if the human will read the context. The agent,
Mm,
the context will understand it. So the agent, the virtual agent, the software will learn fast. I will take another example in healthcare, in patient care. I think
mm,
in healthcare you have complex data environments with continual monitoring of information flows,
mm,
a lot of probabilistic non-rule based decisions which are in a changing environment. This is
mm,
perfect for an agent which can go into the unstructured data and unstructured context
mm,
and learn what to do with the data.
mm.
So patient care, I think it's a great place for agents to flex their AI power muscles. Software development, it's another use case. You already know that even simple using ChatGPT, you can create code that you can then copy paste and you can improve it, with the human help. But software development, it's a good place to start. It's already
Mm,
deeply, I would say, within the structures of the coders activities.
mm,
Is creating what I heard about it. It's and I don't want to be anecdotal about this, but it's creating more than 25% of the code for Google's products. And probably that's not all. I think
mm,
agents can design even system architectures which are critical, develop and execute tests, which we know. I'll give you the example of the cloud test solution from UiPath. Which is a test suite powered by GenAI to come with an end-to-end approach to testing automation, from
mm,
identifying the test cases, writing the documentation for the test case,
mm,
running the script and the builder, and also doing the test and validation. So
mm,
develop, execute test, auto debug. I think it's already in the space of Gen AI slash agentic AI. But
mm.
also in sales and marketing, consider that how many chatbots and conversational agents you can build using the LLMs. Give them
Yeah.
context, give him access to the data, and you have a powerful agent at your fingertip. You can just ask him
Yeah.
every information you want about customers, contracts, financial data. But
Mm,
be aware because you need to have a strong security layer that will give you confidence that people are not tapping into confidential data. You
yeah.
know, that's critical.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you kind of highlight a very critical aspect there of there is a very good benefits of AI, but there is also the security considerations when it comes to agentic AI, AIs or AI in general, right? Like, could you talk a little bit more on like what's the security considerations that you have for agentic AI, especially like potential vulnerabilities and mitigation strategies, and how let's say someone as a CIO, like, they want to adopt this fancy, powerful
Well, if I talk about,
technology.
yeah, if we think about the Gen AI technologies, like I will take Copilot is another agent built on top of OpenAI. It's an agent. Copilot, it's an agent, or Glean, which is also an agent. You put them there on a knowledge base, and you can then prompt them to get your data. Just we need to have certain security layers where we can actually make sure that the data is filtered. And of course, I think um, if you go and give access to anyone to use Copilot for your SharePoint, and you don't have structure information,
mm,
maybe closed documents which should not be accessed, it's easily
mm,
to get access to. I'll give you the example now. It's a hypothetical example of accessing executive salaries. It's really
mm,
possible, and I think it's not new, and anyone can understand that this is possible to happen. So obviously, we are now in a phase where we are thinking about what kind of measures, what kind of framework, security framework, to put
mm,
on top of these technologies to make sure that the data is filtered.
mm,
And we are talking about Glean as well, Glean AI as well, where we did a POC and we noticed that it can actually give you any data you want. So then we thought, like,
mm,
how can we leverage this technology to the people, to our employees, but without harming ourselves? And of course, we have to put some guardrails,
mm,
but we have to work with these companies to help us in creating filters, in creating workflows for approval, rejecting people. So it's kind of at the inception of this,
mm,
but we are aware of risks. We are really, really aware of risks. The
mm,
same as we are aware of, like, all the risk associated with the agentic AI use cases that we are building with UiPath.
mm,
Because in the end, you give power to the Gen AI, to the model, to be creative, especially
mm,
for some use cases. And you don't know if that in that creativity, the data that will be given by the agent and then used by the automation are really reliable for a process that is
mm,
subject to SOX controls.
mm,
So for us, as we develop now some agents and we develop some of them, we are putting in place a risk metrics where we evaluate all the risks associated
mm,
with these agents, yeah, case by case. Of course, the agent will not send data outside of the network, but at least the agents can give certain answers and certain data
mm,
that probably the human will not do. We
mm,
know, and I think I'll give the example of UiPath platform because I know it very well. You can also create a layer of exception handling by the humans, and that's
mm,
what we're gonna do. What we're gonna do is where we believe that the data given by the agent in an agentic AI use case, for example, to create a simple match between a purchase order and an invoice,
mm,
if we believe that the sense of real matching is not very confident, where there's no
mm,
confidence in the matching, we put humans to validate that. So we have humans to handle the exceptions, and I believe through this we can mitigate the risks. Of course, we
mm,
give input to the agents. We give certain roles. They cannot do more than the roles that we are giving,
mm,
but we give freedom in the process itself. For example, in this case, to match an invoice with a PO based on a context and based on set of data.
mm,
So I think we're at the inception of understanding very much the risk associated with handling the data, because in the end we're talking
mm,
about data. We understand the potential of data breaches as well.
mm,
So I guess new technologies that will come into force to enable a stronger and safer framework from a risk
mm,
perspective is really, really needed. Like, your company is, I know, is creating a technology around helping, people, enterprises that are using Copilot and Glean, how to
mm.
handle their data from a confidential perspective, from a security perspective, from a risk perspective. In the end, this is much needed, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I really like the example that you gave about almost like human in the loop to you call it handling exception, but it truly is the human in the loop that can help and correct mistake from Gen AI. And I feel like that's is underrated, right? Like with all the hype, people thinking about like a like a Skynet scenario where the AI can go and destroy the world, but in reality, it's far away from the truth. Like these agents still make a lot of silly mistakes in a way, and having human in the loop is really helpful in kind of handling those objections,
Yes, and
exceptions.
I can also say, like, if you look at at least European Union issued an act last year.
Yeah,
It's called the AI EU Act. It was issued in 2024.
right.
Obviously, they're like thinking about you know the GenAI technologies and then the applied AI, which is the agentic piece of technology
Mm,
based on GenAI. They're definitely thinking seriously about the impact of the AI technologies to
mm,
organization.
mm,
And the AI Act also tackles some of the thorny issues around
mm,
copyright and content ownership, but forcing kind of Gen AI models to disclose their training data, you know,
mm,
and comply with copyright laws. It's not only that. I think the EU Act will be enforced to all the software companies that are developing, you know,
mm,
technologies around the AI models.
mm,
But we see this as well in the US, where I
mm,
think over the last years, we've seen a fast and broad adoption of Gen AI, which
mm,
kind of turn on the heat, on the high level, I'd say. Yeah? And what I was reading in also the UiPath article about the agentic AI, Gen AI use, it's the US alone issued nearly 500 bills that were
Wow.
across 50 states, in 2024, which is a significant from 100 and something in 2023. And of course, I think the Congress and I think US is actually, doubling down on the oversight, proposing, a lot of new acts around understanding how AI will impact organizations and public sector as well. Because I think public sector will make use of AI as well. Because in the end, what's public sector then not as just
Mm,
a larger private company? They still have processes, they still have data, they still have their own issues. And it was actually last Saturday, I think Elon Musk and the Dodge team were on Fox News, and they are on the path of streamlining the processes within the
mm,
government sectors. I think it's something that they want to do next forward. So, of course, they have to leverage AI technologies and even automation, even UiPath automation platform from 6, 7 years ago. It's actually AI uh,
mm.
power technology.
Yeah, yeah. I think one misperception that I keep hearing is that Gen AI is a new thing, but in fact, it is kind of new thing, and this is not, right? Because machine learning and artificial intelligence have
It
decades,
was for a while.
right?
It was for a while here. It was not something. It was not something new. And of course, maybe that kind of AI was more trained on the static rules of if then else. And now
Yeah,
with the new models, you don't need that anymore. You just need natural English or like natural language and then the prompting, and that would be enough. And that's a powerful technology. So it will impact all of us.
yeah, yeah. So in the past, you got to know how to do if and else statement. You have to set up an IDE, and you actually do have to do the coding. But now you can just like go to GenAI, like Copilot or GPT, type in what you want, and it will just spit out exactly what you want without having to like if and else and for loop and while loop and stuff like that. All the typical stuff. So I think that's exciting.
And it's getting better and better and better every year. And it will get to a point where, it's perfect, probably. So that you don't need the humans to probably handle exceptions, because I think the agents will also handle exceptions for you. So I don't know if this is scary or not, but I think it's already happening. So I think we
Yeah.
are living the times of a new AI revolution, because AI is really a revolution.
Well, we'll reach the Skynet status someday where the machine control the humans.
Like yeah, that one, I think, which were like movies, but it's actually like happening now, and you can see like the impact will be on jobs, and job market is going to be reshaped, and I think
Yeah,
I saw some articles, and even Bill Gates are talking, and other people are talking, Elon Musk and others are talking about new jobs will come, and new jobs and existing jobs will disappear. So
yeah,
question is, if you look now on what AI can do, what are those jobs that will come, and what will be the jobs that will disappear. You know,
Yeah.
what's what's important to mention is the adoption of AI, whether it's Gen AI or applied AI. In the case of agentic AI,
Mm.
is the fast of adoption for the enterprises. That will give them really competitive advantage. They
Yeah.
have to follow this. Like any company that adopted technology, cloud technology, and now automation in the past, and now agentic AI will be at the forefront of in their markets.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you kind of highlighted a few good points there. One is that certain job will disappear and certain new job will come, right? Like just like when they invent the car, and like everyone's saying like, oh my gosh, it's going to replace all the job that we have with regard to like who is going to raise the horses, who is going to do all of that. But now there's a new job with the mechanics who maintain the cars, and then there are workers in factories, and I would assume that similar thing will happen. It's just that things take time to unfold. Now, the good thing about Gen AI is that it moved really fast, right? In the past 2 or 3 years, you can see the new technology got widely adopted. Thinking about a car, it took like 100 years to actually for people around the world to adopt it. But now, everyone in every corner of the world start adopting Gen AI easily in their own native language. So, like the fast pace of adoption is going to be the key game changers when it comes to technology like Gen AI. And you're absolutely correct in that enterprises need to adopt quickly, right? Like think about the people who stay on premise versus going to the cloud, right? It's
I'll give you a very simple example how a person that is not a mechanical engineer can really learn how to dismantle a BMW engine,
mm,
you know, fix the issues, the mechanical issues, and then put it back and make the car work. It's that is
mm,
my son. He did that just using tutorials on YouTube and also gathering information out of the internet. A thing that was not available like 15 years ago. Okay, you have to go to the shop because only certain people had certain knowledge. Now, he obviously has a good understanding of how to handle the information, but think about ChatGPT power actually to handle all the information, to give it to you in the right way. So
mm,
once you read it, you know what to do with that engine. Then, of course,
right,
you some practical skills of like dismantling and doing a little bit of work. If we talk about an engine that is powered by gas, but nevertheless, access to information and the power of summarizing and giving you the
mm,
right information and the right steps is really what I think Gen AI and agentic will do for everyone. It's a game
yeah,
changer.
yeah, definitely. We kind of take a little bit of the tension to talk about the futures, how it will impact enterprises, but also individuals, and also the Skynet scenario where the machine might control the humans. But let's take a step back and talk about the present. So a lot of enterprises are not there yet. They're just like starting the journey, start wanting to adopt Gen AI, and a lot of them just like, all right, so I'm a Microsoft shop, I'm a Google shop, I'm just gonna turn it on. That's my first step. Uh, so could you talk a little bit more on like what tips or like the motivations that you have from yourself as a CIOs, and what advice would you have for other CIO who just begin to start their journey in Gen AI and not really advanced like where UiPath is right now?
Well, one motivation would be to kind of face earlier the potential positive or even negative impact of technology. So I think
Mm,
one thing about innovators is that they tried new things, even that was in some cases followed by failure.
mm,
But then failure just pushes you to be better. The same is with Gen AI. We want to understand the newest technologies and how those can help us. So um, we did a copilot implementation at UiPath on a smaller scale. Of course, we try to see how this can improve the productivity of our employees.
mm,
And we experience with different tools. So we are understanding very well the impact of IT and applications and Gen AI applications to our organization. Um, and we experience with tools like Copilot and Glean. We also have our own technology, which is called Autopilot, which is and also um, an agent built on Gen AI, similar to Copilot. And now we are actually, shifting more to using our own internal technology because we believe that we build a layer of security around it. But we did that because we are actually an automation company, so we
Mhm.
can do that. But if I think about other companies that are using Copilot on Glean, they obviously need to employ and they want to make sure that they are actually implementing other technologies like Opsin and like probably others, where at least the challenges with data security, specifically around sensitive data that could be accessible across the enterprise, will be handled.
Mm.
This is really, really, really critical. So you can do that on a smaller scale, and then implement on a larger scale. And I think the biggest risks always associated with the use of Copilot and Glean is probably not so fancy risks like prompt injection or model poisoning, because Microsoft and others are probably taking care of these kind of risks and attacks. Yeah, but mostly around access to data. Once again, agents helps in giving you the right data and making sure that the data is then sent to other models or
Mm.
automations. So like you don't want someone to tap into Copilot and ask an executive a question about an executive salary. You don't
Mm.
want to do that, so you want to make sure that at least you have a technology that is helping you to filter this information. So it's important to make sure that the organization are also continuing to monitor
Mm.
the GenAI technologies, Copilot, the agent from Microsoft, on at least what kind of knowledge base it's added, to the model. Like you have to make sure that you understand, you can control, and you can decide whether you want to add those contexts to the agent or
Mm.
not. And
Mm.
you need to make sure that you have the right permissions, that you control the permissions to the people, and you control also the information that are sent to certain individuals. Very that sensitive.
Yeah. Yeah. I think these are very practical advice and definitely super helpful to CIOs in enterprises that trying just get started on their GenAI journey. So, uh, in in your opinions, like if you have to sum up with like one or two takeaway, like what would that be for the CIO listening to the call or like the CISO listening to the call?
I would say always the early adopters of new technologies will be the one to win on the long term. You know, because only when you try and fail, it gives you a good understanding. Now, people were talking about Gen AI, but nobody understand Gen AI until they start using it. When they start using it, they like it, and we went in if even further. And now I think I see a lot of people having Chat GPT on their mobiles.
Mm.
I see a lot of. I can differentiate between an answer coming from a Chat GPT versus a human, but it gives a lot of efficiency. At least the Gen AI,
Mm.
applied AI. When we talk about the copilot, autopilot from UiPath, or even the agents, those needs to be deployed in a very safe framework from a security
Mm.
perspective and also from a data accessibility perspective. You
Mm.
don't want data to flow around on the internet. That could be really bad
Mm.
for like breach of data, confidentiality, and in the end defamation. So but the earlier you adopt Gen AI and the earlier you adopt applied AI and automation, you would actually understand it better, these technologies, and you can then see how you can integrate it in your tech stack as a CIO
Mm.
and transform the way companies operate. In the end, IT, it's at the forefront, in my opinion, of business transformation.
Mm.
Whether you are a CIO or a chief digital officer or a chief automation officer, in the end, it's all about applications. It's all about efficiencies of your processes, and you can power your processes. You can streamline your processes only by using automation and AI. That's the only way. So
Mm.
I would encourage everyone that is out there to try.
Mm.
It depends a lot on the maturity of the organization, but I think it's a duty to all the CIOs to actually at least
mm,
propose some Gen AI initiatives, if not agentic AI initiatives. But we see a big switch now between traditional RPA to agentic AI,
mm,
which is the next thing. Now,
mm,
the next level would be orchestration.
mm,
Orchestration will also give a strong sense of security around the agents that are building, and the orchestration will obviously be able to coordinate agents
mm,
with the automation and having the humans to validate and handle exceptions.
yeah,
That's really powerful for the future. And I think the next thing is orchestration of agentic AI, or agentic AI orchestration, the way we call it at UiPath.
great.
Everyone can build agents. You mentioned that even maybe like a 15-year-old kid can go and use an open model, have a context, and then run an agent.
Mm,
And we see companies building, in industry focus agentic AI use cases. But what do you do with all of this if you don't have a proper infrastructure to handle the agents, the automation, and the humans in a way that you are securely as
mm,
an enterprise? Data confidentiality. You can employ other technologies to help you to get better at this orchestration. And I think that going forward, I think, as I said, top of the mind would be for CIOs to think about security and data confidentiality as well, along as they, as organizations will make use of GenAI technology.
yeah. And for the folks in the audience, feel free to ask question in the comments. We'll try to address that. Um, so we talk a lot about AI, agentic AI, AI security, data, and a lot of different topics. We'd love to switch gear off a little bit and stop talking about AI and talk a little bit more about Mihai and who you are and kind of your transitions, right? Like, I think you start with having a finance background and now you are in a CIO position. Could you talk a little bit more, like what what motivated you to make a change and how the change had been so far for you, just to
Yeah.
let the
So
audience know.
yeah, back in the days when I was in high school, I had to apply to like university, and because I really love mathematics and physics, but I want to also do like a career in business, and I didn't know where.
Mm,
At the University of Economic Studies in Bucharest, where was this faculty, cybernetic. It's kind of applied mathematics on economics, on economy. And I said, like, the only barrier was to give a math and a physics exam, like you take one written one,
mm,
not online, and no other exam on economy, because I didn't know anything about economy. So I applied to that university, and I was very interested in the cybernetic approach to the economy. I did the theory, game theory. I did the
mm,
war theory. I did a lot of econometrics, mathematics, apply mathematics to economy. So I was really interested in the approach on the enterprise from a process perspective. That's what I did. And so then when I finished, of course, I joined Big Four, Big Five of that moment, Arthur Anderson, and I went through like consulting and audit and accounting. So I became an accountant and then a finance person. I was CFO. So when I joined UiPath as a CFO, I enjoyed it, but I was still, and I am still now a very operational guy, a
mm,
process oriented, a systemic guy. And the way we set up UiPath from a vision perspective was, how can I scale back office operations, finance operations, really to a level where I don't need to depend on people. I need to depend on systems and processes and automations.
mm,
I'll continue with my love for implementing applications.
mm,
So then I, set up the systems. I had the people. We did automations. We make them work. The automation was the glue to streamline and simplify processes and make
yeah,
sure that processes are smooth. So I think when they offered me the role of the CIO was actually what I wanted, because I had a larger uh, approach on not only finance applications but also sales, human resource information systems, on the center of excellence where we build the automation. So I could use all of these to transform the way businesses are operated these days.
mm,
And this is because these days you have cloud, automation, and AI. These
Yeah.
three ingredients are really powerful. If I would have been a CIO back 50 years ago, probably I would still play with the mainframes and wait for the printed, paper to come out and try to understand what those means. I used to see some of these mainframes back in like 30 years ago. It was a big change. Mainframes, personal computers, then applications, and then cloud. Cloud gave actually a boost to AI, to automation, and then to AI. So how do you drive a car now? Maybe most of us have electric cars. So it's a normal progress as well in the IT organization. So I was really took the role as a CIO, thinking that with the apps and the cloud and the automation and AI, you
Mm.
can really transform the way companies are managed.
Yeah, it's interesting how, from a simple thinking, hey, I need to take math and physics exams to get in, and then how it kind of like transpire over the years, and it shaped like who you are and kind of like what challenges you tackle.
Yeah, I'm always like, remember the cybernetic model was you have an input and you have a box with the process, then you have the output, and then you have the feedback loop. So it is it is what an app is. An application take inputs, data,
Mm,
crunches the process, and gives data back as an output.
mm.
So every app, it's in the end a cybernetic process. So
The
all of
systemic thinking that have been instilled in you. you you always think it's always as a box. So it's input, output, and there's a black box. And then how do you make sure the black box work as well? It's the same with finance, I assume, and it's the same with where you are right now with CIO. But it's just like a lot more of the black box, right?
it's the black box, but I think now the even the humans. I'll give you an example of agentic AI use case. Why would I need to learn an app?
Mm,
I will take a ticketing app, for example, the way you want to
mm,
call it, for IT operations. Why would I
mm,
ask people to go and open a ticket and learn how to open a ticket and create a ticket in an app?
mm,
Simply create
mm,
an agent, give him the operating procedure, all the rules of how a ticket should be opened, and give a prompt to the user. Ask,
mm,
the user should be simply asking in plain English to open a ticket directly without knowing how to use that ticketing
mm,
system. That's how powerful the agents will be. Now, of course, you need to put rules for security. Maybe I'm hacking someone agent and I'm impersonating myself as my manager. Am I giving already the approval for the ticket as well? So, of course, there's a layer there that should defend the agents, the security layer. But in
yeah,
the end, the agents are powerful. So now that's why I said next thing is for us to think how we can actually make the agents work in a secure environment.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that the black box needs to be secure so that no one can abuse it and give it
Yes.
the wrong inputs, basically. Like
Yes.
wrong person, the wrong. I know we're almost time. I think we have 2 minutes left. Any final thoughts or anything at all before we end the call?
Well, as I said, go and try and use as much as possible agentic AI platforms, automation, Gen AI, but bear in mind, the risk associated with data exposure. But I think there's no way in the future we will not be forced to use this Gen AI because it'll become part of the day-to-day activity. And I think the world is just changing very fast.
Mm,
And I think that's a downside to our like personal life and day-to-day life because we are
mm,
bombarded with so much data and information versus 50 years ago. I still remember the days when I was waiting for a fax to come, if some of the people know what the fax is, to get an order from a customer. These days these are happening very fast, and it's actually you don't see the order, you just see that you already issue an invoice and maybe the products are dispatched. That fast things are like evolving in such a short
mm.
period of time. um, adoption, and I think security is really important.
Right. Thanks so much for taking time to chat with us and share with the audience. Pleasure
Thank
to have you, Mihai.